morning, evening, or night, wherever you are. Welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Tuesday, 5th August 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. China is under pressure from the US to halt its purchases of discounted Russian oil. Chinese policy banks are issuing bonds to lock in low interest rates before a tax change. 2 Chinese nationals in California were indicted for exporting millions of dollars in AI chips to China, including NVIDIA products. Shanghai aims to complete at least 5 new large-scale data centers by year's end. This expansion will support the growing demand for computing power, fueled by China's booming AI industry. Chinese video game companies are increasing AI investments to enhance their games. China's control of the rare earth element supply chain is a significant geopolitical asset. Despite U.S. pressure, China is expected to continue importing Russian oil due to their beneficial energy relationship. The U.S. trade deficit decreased in June, with a significant drop in the gap with China caused by lower consumer good imports, partly due to tariffs. United States. The U.S. government is considering a new federal rule to relax restrictions on companies utilizing drones for extended-range operations without needing a waiver. Trade tensions between Washington and New Delhi are intensifying, potentially jeopardizing President Donald Trump's planned visit to India this fall and straining bilateral relations. This also casts a shadow over the future of a vital Indo-Pacific bloc designed to counter China's influence. President Trump has increased tariffs on Canadian goods to 35%. However, a crucial exemption safeguards the bulk of Canadian and Mexican products. The United States' effective tariff rate against the world has climbed to 17%, prompting China to urge greater trade diversification. India. The Reserve Bank of India, RBI, has decided to hold the repo rate steady at 5%, referencing global trade anxieties and the ambiguity surrounding U.S. tariffs. The growing trade friction between Washington and New Delhi threatens President Trump's expected visit to India later this year, potentially weakening bilateral relations and undermining the Indo-Pacific bloc intended to balance China's influence. Australia. The Australian share market has achieved record highs, fueled by gains in the banking and mining industries. CFD broker Decode Capital, an Australian firm, has announced the appointment of Mark Tsang as its chief operating officer. Canada. Even with U.S. President Trump's increase of tariffs on Canadian goods to 35%, a significant exemption shields the majority of Canadian and Mexican products from the new levies. China. As the United States' effective tariff rate against the world rises to 17%, China is calling for increased trade diversification. The escalating trade tensions between the U.S. and India are also impacting the viability of a crucial Indo-Pacific bloc aimed at countering China's expanding influence in the region. India is navigating a challenging economic landscape amid escalating trade tensions with the United States. President Trump's tariff threats loom large, coinciding with crucial trade deal deadlines. Differing approaches could strain relations between Delhi and Washington. Meanwhile, the Reserve Bank of India has held key interest rates steady at 5.5%, causing a dip in rate-sensitive stocks. Bond yields have remained stable as traders look for further direction from the central bank. Despite market anxieties, analysts foresee potential recovery opportunities, pointing to low implied volatility. Further complicating matters, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval has visited Moscow amidst potential U.S. tariffs linked to India's imports of Russian oil. Standard Chartered is strategically leveraging its talent marketplace program to achieve cost efficiencies and boost internal recruitment. This initiative aims to equip employees with the necessary skills to adapt to the growing influence of artificial intelligence within the banking sector. The United States finds itself at odds with India over trade, exacerbated by the Russia-Ukraine war. Former President Trump accused India of effectively supporting Russia's war through its continued purchases of Russian energy. These accusations led to the breakdown of ongoing trade negotiations between the U.S. and India. Trump also commented on Russia's economic situation, claiming it is struggling and predicting lower oil prices would force President Putin to end the conflict in Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russia has publicly defended India's sovereign right to choose its trade partners. This affirmation comes amid increasing pressure from the United States regarding India's ongoing trade relationship with Russia, particularly concerning energy imports. India's National Security Advisor, Ajit Doval, recently visited Moscow, a move that occurred shortly after Trump's tariff threats related to India's oil acquisitions from Russia. Adding another layer to the conflict, Russia is reportedly contemplating offering Ukraine an air truce. However, concrete details surrounding this potential agreement remain limited and unconfirmed. China's stock markets led a rebound across Asia, buoyed by positive domestic news and mirroring gains on Wall Street. This recovery followed a previous sell-off triggered by disappointing jobs data. Investors are optimistic that the Federal Reserve will soon cut interest rates, further fueling market sentiment. However, caution remains due to ongoing uncertainty surrounding US economic data and its potential impact on Federal Reserve policy. Across Asia, many growing companies exhibit high insider ownership, suggesting strong confidence from within. Meanwhile, the Philippine peso and South Korean won are among several Asian currencies facing downward pressure. Switzerland is dispatching its president and economy minister to the United States. They aim to negotiate a solution to avoid substantial tariffs threatened by the Trump administration. These tariffs could hit 39% on Swiss exports like chocolate, skincare, and watches. Switzerland hopes to protect its trade relationship with the U.S. Japan is at the center of President Trump's push to open foreign markets for American cars. JP Morgan is now the top-earning foreign bank in Japan, riding a wave of increased deal activity. To boost its defense capabilities, Japan has partnered with Australia to acquire naval frigates. The Nikkei stock index has risen, fueled by easing concerns about the U.S. economy and strong company earnings. Overall, Tokyo stocks are up, thanks to impressive earnings reports from Japanese firms. The war in Ukraine continues, with NATO orchestrating consistent shipments of substantial weaponry, largely originating from the United States. Simultaneously, a special envoy representing former President Trump engaged in crucial discussions in Moscow, emphasizing a rapidly approaching 48-hour deadline for a ceasefire agreement. Former President Trump weighed in on the conflict, suggesting that a decline in oil prices would exert pressure on Putin to terminate the war, disparaging the Russian economy as stinking. European stock markets presented a mixed picture amid earnings, optimism, and tariff worries. Initial gains, fueled by strong earnings and hopes for US rate cuts, faced headwinds from former President Trump's threat of 250% tariffs. Pharmaceutical and chip stocks specifically felt the pinch. Despite the volatility, the FTSE 100 demonstrated resilience, mirroring a global rebound, and ultimately European shares closed with gains. Saudi Arabia is pursuing a joint investment fund with Morocco and has adjusted its unemployment target to 5% with the IMF, noting the transformation of the Saudi labor market. A Saudi steel firm is also seeking advisors for debt restructuring, while the kingdom launched its inaugural satellite data platform to advance its space economy. Kenya and Saudi Arabia have also formed a partnership to enhance SME financing. Malaysia, previously a major solar panel manufacturer due to Chinese investment, now illustrates the challenges posed by U.S. tariffs and restricted market access. Singaporeans, compared to other Asian travelers, demonstrate a greater reluctance to travel to the United States, reflecting unique perceptions of the country. Brazil's former president, Jair Bolsonaro, is under house arrest, awaiting trial for allegedly planning a coup, potentially complicating upcoming trade negotiations between Brazil and the U.S. Iran has included the South Korean won in its official exchange market for trade. Furthermore, a report suggests that an Iranian delegation visited Russia in 2024 to advance its nuclear weapons program. South Africa's Shoprite is exiting Ghana and Malawi, marking its seventh market departure in Africa. The South African rand remains stable despite concerns over tariffs. Canada's leading Indigenous bank is raising capital amid increasing demand for loans. The Canadian stock market saw gains, with the S&P/TSX Composite Index rising by 2.03%. The United States is launching a pilot program that could require some inbound travelers to post bonds of up to $15,000 for entry. Thailand's stock market closed higher by 17.56 points, fueled by anticipation of a Federal Reserve interest rate cut and increased foreign capital inflows. The Philippines, the world's largest rice importer, has temporarily suspended rice imports for 60 days. Romania's first post-communist leader, Ion Iliescu, has passed away at the age of 95. South Korea's largest cryptocurrency exchange is planning to expand its operations into Vietnam. Alaska Airlines is introducing a new livery and launching flights to London and Iceland as part of its international expansion strategy. Tesla's sales in Britain and Germany have decreased significantly, falling by over 55%, while China's BYD has experienced substantial growth. BYD also holds a leading position in Sri Lanka, while Tesla is working to regain ground in China. Indonesia plans to designate an oil trader as a fugitive and request an Interpol red notice for their arrest. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.